Hello, beautiful people. Happy Sunday. Welcome to your astrological forecast for next week, starting off today. And I'm first, as usual, going to make the aspects that are going to be taking place exact, coming up the upcoming 7 days. And then we're going to dive into what is the theme for all of this, because there is definitely a theme building up, that's for sure. So today, as I'm recording this, we are experiencing the square between Venus and Pluto, which is important to mention again, because this is a very important aspect. And this is a square that's been already present during the last lunation, which was the full moon in Gemini. We experienced at the beginning of this week on Monday, and during the week on the November 29th, Venus had a conjunction with South Node. So the cycle between Venus and South Node that began a year ago in November now ended, and a new cycle began. There will be one more conjunction between Venus and South Node next year in September. So during this conjunction, Venus was already being squared by Pluto, because of course Pluto is squaring the nodes this entire year. Pluto is a skip step, as we know. And this square is becoming exact today, and this is a square. This square is a crisis in consciousness, which means that there is a pressure for us to release something so the cycle can end and a new cycle can begin. And this cycle will end and begin the new one in the sign of Aquarius, because Venus will have a conjunction with Pluto next in February in the sign of Aquarius. So anyway, so this is how we end in this week. Well, depending, because I know for some people week begins with Sunday. And then we enter in a new week with Moon in a sign of Virgo. And then tomorrow, on Monday, Venus is going to move into the sign of Scorpio, where she will remain until December 29th. And during this period of time, Venus will make a lot of aspects, some of them already happening this week, but very important aspects to mention for the remainder of the month, which are not going to happen this week, but are very important to mention, are the opposition to Uranus, trine to Neptune, and sextile to Pluto, which will be happening at the end of the month. Actually, the sextile to Pluto will be happening on December 29th, just before Venus moves into the sign of Sagittarius. So I just wanted to give this as a side note, because the aspects Venus will be making from the sign of Scorpio will be very potent. And then on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, Venus will make a trine to Saturn. So this is happening on 1 degree 22 minutes. Saturn now is direct, as we know. And Wednesday we have Neptune station in direct. So Neptune is the first planet station in direct this month, because we're going to have also Chiron station in direct, and Jupiter will be the last one this year station in direct. And we still have Uranus retrograde, which will be until the end of January, when Uranus will station direct. By the time Pluto will already be in a sign of Aquarius, ruled by Uranus. So Venus is having, I already mentioned that Venus is having a trine to Saturn. Then on Wednesday, Neptune is stationed in direct. Neptune is important also because he's the ruler of Saturn. Saturn is still the ruler of Pluto in Capricorn. Neptune is stationed in direct on 24 degrees 53 minutes, and Neptune has been retrograde since June 30th. It's still retrograde at the time when I'm making this video. So almost 6 months. It's a very long time. I mean, just over 5, right? On the same day, Moon will move into the sign of Libra. Then Thursday night, Friday morning, we have Sun making a trine to Chiron retrograde in Aries. And this is again an aspect which is supporting us on our evolutionary pathway, because Aries is when the North Node is, which is our evolutionary potential. As we know, Chiron is in the closing phase conjunction with North Node. They will have a conjunction in February, and then a new cycle will begin, because Chiron is our collective wounded healer, and is telling us that there is a new chapter opening up for all of us, but it's making us feel insecure. So with this conjunction between Chiron and North Node, this cycle of being afraid to step into unknown will potentially end, and a new cycle will be we will be invited into this new cycle. So now Sun making a trine to Chiron, it's a supportive aspect, because Sun being in a Sagittarius is illuminating to us all the stories that are holding us back for stepping into the unknown. Then on the same day, night, Thursday night, Friday morning, depending where you are in the world, we have Mercury now in Capricorn as of Friday. Mercury making a trine to Jupiter retrograde in Taurus. And this is again an aspect which will take place 3 times. So Mercury, as we know, is now in Capricorn. Mercury will retrograde back into the sign of Sagittarius in this December 23rd, I believe it is. And After Mercury already had a 1 square with Neptune on the day of the full moon in Gemini, Mercury will have 2 more squares with Neptune from the sign of Sagittarius, and Mercury from the sign of Capricorn will have a 3 sextiles to Saturn and 3 trines to Jupiter. So Mercury will be reevaluating a lot of things, and with all this repeating aspect, each time the aspect takes place, we will feel it differently, because now Mercury is pre-retrograde, then Mercury will be retrograde, and then Mercury will be direct post-retrograde. So whatever Mercury will learn throughout this retrograde from Capricorn back to Sagittarius and then forward will be impactful to these transits we are experiencing the first one of now. Then on Friday night, Moon will move into the sign of Scorpio, and then Saturday night, Sunday morning, Venus will make an opposition to Jupiter. Again, this Jupiter is coming up, seems to be all week, Jupiterian theme, which is very right on time because we are in Sagittarius season ruled by Jupiter. So Venus making an opposition to Jupiter retrograde in Taurus. I want to dive deep into this aspect because it's very important. And then we will end the week and start a new one Monday next week, which is 11th, I believe. Moon will move into the sign of Sagittarius, preparing us for the next lunation, upcoming new moon in Sagittarius, which for us here on this side of Atlantic will happen on December 12th, in Europe, and further away it will happen on Wednesday the 13th. And that's the day actually when Mercury will station retrograde right after the new moon in Sagittarius, but that's for another conversation. So, okay, so with regards to what's going on this week, I already talked about the Venus square to Pluto enough, so let's just move in from that. So Venus entering Scorpio. Venus, from the traditional astrology point of view, doesn't like being in Scorpio because Scorpio is very, intense. It's like, oh, I need to dive into my psychology and sit with it. The same like Venus in, Cancer. It's like, oh, I have to sit with my emotion, and all that. But Venus in Scorpio, it's a very important transit for Venus because, of course, Venus now is in a new phase conjunction with South Node, and South Node is the resolution node, being in Libra, and it's all telling us about relationships. And now being in Scorpio, Venus, of course, will be touching, as she has been doing for past months, everything that already was touched by Mars, illuminated by Sun, and then, of course, activated by Mercury as well. So she's like going over the same territory, diving very deep and trying to see how this is like impacting us in our personal relationship to ourselves and relationship to the outside environment. So in the sign of Scorpio, she will be bringing to the surface, especially like I mentioned with the aspects that are taking place, the trine to Saturn, opposition to Jupiter, opposition to Uranus later on, it will be the trine to Neptune and sextile to Pluto towards the end of the month. She is bringing up a lot of emotions because Scorpio is very intense, and even though all the other planets now moved out of Scorpio, but they'll be moving into Capricorn, and there is a sextile between Scorpio and Capricorn. Is all this feminine receptive energy which is making us feel. So at the moment we are still in Sagittarius season, which means that we are exploring what is the story here. Like again, the external environment is giving us food for thought to reevaluate, especially once Mercury goes retrograde and dives back into Sagittarius for the holidays. But Venus, and especially like Venus is making an aspect, right? She's going to have the sextile to Mercury. Yes, that's actually going to take place on Monday the 11th. So a week from now, Venus will have a sextile with Mercury. So this is supporting us in this process of identifying these definitions of reality we are experiencing at the moment, and are they still serving us? Because Venus, as the rule of the South Node, is all under question, right? And that's technically the story that's taking place now in the Sagittarius season. That's the storyline, and this is the theme for the entire week, because with everything that we are experiencing, the Venus taking into the sign of Scorpio, moving into the sign of Scorpio, where, like I mentioned, she will remain until December 29th. And that's the day when she have sextile to Pluto, just before she moves out of it. Venus on Tuesday night is going to make a trine to Saturn in Pisces. So everything Venus will dig out and make us feel, and everything that's going to be reflected to us in our personal relationships, like all the feels, all the stuff that's going to be coming up, and relationships that are showing, being mirrored to us externally, it's telling us what it is that is part of this old structure, old definition, old matrix, old construct that is now potentially dissolving, right? Because it's Saturn in Pisces, so Venus making a trine to Saturn, and later on this month, like she's starting the transit in Scorpio with trine to Saturn. So it's like this, like, okay, you know, what are we building or rebuilding or dissolving the form of? And then towards the end of her transit, on the 25th, actually on a Christmas day, she will make a trine to Neptune. And Neptune is the ruler of Pisces. By then, of course, Neptune will be direct, and Neptune will be, okay, well, let's dissolve it if it no longer holds a meaning. But all these transits to Neptune can create a lot of confusion and sense of being lost, and like, what's going on, you know, like this desire to escape, especially, I mean, this is happening during holidays, so we all will be escaping somewhere into all the festivities. So yeah, this will be a good opportunity to have a realization what out of what are we experiencing in our life right now, which is this, even these traditions, you know, being repeated, what out of that is actually serving us. Because just like a side note from like a real life experience, we keep repeating the same things. Well, not everyone, but a lot of people I know, like I can talk for my family is very traditional, and I know this is an astrological video, not a personal share, but I still think perhaps this will be, you know, beneficial to mention, because it's coming to me, so obviously I'm supposed to talk about it. So like, my family is super traditional, very traditional. I'm the black sheep, I'm very not traditional. And there is this routine, this, you know, like things that my parents do for Christmas, and, you know, and some of it is obviously, you know, like I'm sure that they enjoy, but some of it is kind of like they just do it because it's expected, because it's a tradition. And I know a lot of people do it like that, like, well, because everybody is doing it, you know, like putting Christmas tree like 1 month ahead and stuff, and all this decorating and all that. And I'm not saying for a lot of people this holds a lot of meaning and they enjoy it, but does it for everyone, you know? Like, that's the thing, that's the question, because we are being conditioned that we all supposed to behave in the same way, do the same thing. Oh, Christmas coming, okay, let's put decorations up, Christmas tree, do all the same thing. And some people enjoy it. Some people don't. I don't do it. I don't enjoy it. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. Doing it is not right or wrong. That doesn't matter, you know, like, and I mean, obviously different cultures, different religions, people have different approach towards the holiday season. However, I know there is a lot of pressure on people, and a lot of people do it just to keep up with the Jonases, keep up with the appearances. So how much joy is it actually bringing to you? How much meaning does it actually have to you to follow all these things that we're doing, like, because that's the conditioning, because that's the Saturn. So this is just one of the examples, and this is technically what's happening this entire week, this entire month. Like, this is the theme. Now it's Sagittarius season and building up towards new moon in Sagittarius. This is the theme. We are looking over these stories that brought us to this point, you know, like all these traditions, all this programming, you know, because Mercury now in Capricorn is going to go into, okay, but what is the program? Because Mercury in Capricorn is like, okay, let's be disciplined, you know, let's look at the program, let's look at the structure, let's look at what created this construct of reality that you are experiencing, we are experiencing, because there is your personal experience, which is unique to you, your own personal reality, and then there is a collective experience, which we are all tapped into, right? So Venus trining Saturn at the beginning of her transit and trining Neptune at the end of her transit in Scorpio is very profound. It's very profound because it's gonna dig out a lot of things to the surface. And I know from experience, personal experience, that holiday season can be very hard. It can be very joyous, but it can be very hard. It can be fairly extreme. And I mean, we're going to be approaching Capricorn season, the solstice, and Capricorn is about new beginning. We'll be diving into something new, which again, like, there are so many layers, and I don't know even what to talk about first, because there is all this information streaming, and there is so many layers to this, that this is such a pivotal time. And this is something, I mean, I don't know if people watch both my videos, but this is something I talked about in my video yesterday. To me, personally, 2023 is over. It finished before new moon, full moon in Gemini. It's over, it's done. It finished in November. Now we are in the in-between. Now is the decision time. Now is the time for you to reevaluate all the stories, identify, see what's going on, feel into it. With Venus in Scorpio, it's a lot of feeling, a lot of intensity, a lot of feeling, a lot of like obsession even. and see, is this the story you want to bring with you for the next year? Because the intention setting is not January, it's now. Because it's new moon in Sagittarius. What is the story you're going to choose? And yes, that's next week. But this is a preparation. This week, now in between lunations, is a preparation for that. And Venus making a trine to Saturn. Saturn's still the ruler of Pluto on the last degrees of Capricorn. Pluto is going to enter Aquarius next month. We are in December now, so it's next month. For me, I'm already in January 2024. That's how I feel. But Pluto is going to move into Aquarius next month. So everything is like built up. You know, all this last sextile to Pluto, whatever, this square to Pluto, this is the last aspect before the conjunction. Then, like I said, at the end of this transit of Venus through Scorpio, there'll be the last sextile to Pluto. That's like the Aquarius flavor, you know, wanting to break free, wanting to release, wanting to let it go, because it no longer serves. It's no longer, well, it's the Neptune that doesn't hold a meaning, but it's like it became outdated, right? So I'm not saying now, oh, let's just throw all the tradition outside of the window, but this is a process of, especially once Mercury goes retrograde, you know, on the 13th or 12th night, depending where you are in the world. But for majority of people, it's going to be 13. Even for me here in Mexico, it's going to be very early morning on the 13th. All that said, Mercury is going to really make us reevaluate these stories. And this is all, you know, under the influence of the new moon in Sagittarius, because new moon is this new moon that's coming up, the next one, next week. This is the last new moon of this year. We started the year with new moon in Aquarius and we ended it with new moon in Sagittarius. There is no new moon in Capricorn this year. There are two next year. At the first thing and the last thing next year is a new moon in Capricorn, but this year there is no new moon in Capricorn. So we are reevaluating everything. We end in the year with new moon in Sagittarius. I mean, there is obviously full moon in Cancer, but the last new moon will be new moon in Sagittarius coming up next week. And this is all about setting the intention for the story you want to experience next year. So that's why this month, this Sagittarius season is so important. It's so important for people to pay attention to, because this is what's going to determine your experience, the story you will be experiencing, the lens through which you will be experiencing the reality next year. So moving on. Neptune station direct on Wednesday on 24 degrees 53 minutes. So this is something I want to go back in time. As I already mentioned very briefly, Neptune stationed retrograde on June 30th. And that was in between new moon in Gemini, which took place on the 17th. As we know, we already mentioned new moon in Gemini because we just had full moon in Gemini, and that was the day when Saturn stationed retrograde on June 17th. So Neptune stationed retrograde on June 30th on 27 degrees 41 minutes. On the same day, Mercury in Cancer made a trine to Saturn retrograde in Pisces. Again, Mercury was in Cancer. What is Cancer? Who are you? What is your sense of your ego, your sense of your inner world? Cancer is ruled by moon. Who are you? You know, and who are you when nobody else is looking? When you don't have to put your hat on and be something for someone else? Who really are you? And there was Mercury making a trine to Saturn retrograde, which is saying like, well, we really started questioning on the same day, Neptune station retrograde, on the same day, Mercury made a trine to Saturn in Pisces, already retrograde. So these past 6 months since June, okay, it's not technically 6 months, it's like, 5 and a bit. Never mind, it's still June to December, technically 6 months. This was the period of time when we, really, there were so many things that came up to the surface for us that really makes us question, like, is this still who I am? Is this still what I want? Is this still the story I believe? Like all these things, literally all these things are coming up to our conscious mind, like things maybe that we didn't even think about for years, like stories, like trauma, like triggers, like whatever, people from the past, like that's my experience. People from last year I haven't spoken to for like almost a year, they're coming up in my horizon now, and I'm like, oh, interesting. Anyway, so this was something, important to mention in my opinion. Neptune station retrograde, same day, Mercury made a trine to Saturn retrograde in Pisces, and Mercury was in Cancer. Now, on the next lunation after that was the full moon in Capricorn, funnily enough. Okay, the next thing that is very important to talk about is, well, I already briefly touched up on the Sun making a trine to Chiron, Sun illuminating all the stories for us now, Sagittarius season. What is the belief system? What is the belief system that is making us feel in many cases imprisoned because we are holding on to it so tight, and in some cases we don't even know what it is. We don't even know that there is this mode of operandum that is happening in the subconscious that is making us act certain way. So the first step towards change is acceptance and awareness. Like, yes, okay, I can see this is happening. Okay, awareness, why is this happening? Start questioning things. So now with Sun going through the sign of Sagittarius is illuminating a lot of things. It's, again, stories are coming up. That's why there are so many things. Like I said, I'm completely out of touch with reality here, so I have no idea what's going on in the world, hand on heart. But there are a lot of dense energies coming to the surface. I can feel the energy. I don't have to know the details of every single story going on out there, but I can feel the energy. There are a lot of stories. There is a lot of and I know a lot of spiritual teachers are talking about ancestor healings. Like, there needs to be ancestor healing being done collectively, individually and collectively, because all these stories are coming from the past. There are the stories that we are being conditioned by from the previous generation, and now is the time to alter these stories. Why there is still war? Why there is still this conflict? Like, why, when a baby is born pure and loving, then at some point in their life they turn against their own whoever, brother, sister, cousin, because there is this conflict when it comes to story and belief system. Like, I believe this, you believe that, so you are my enemy. But everybody believes something different anyway, because we all perceive in reality through our own unique individual lens. Nobody is having exactly the same experience as the person next to them. There is no such a thing, because you use your own filter. So, this is the thing, and that's what I mean. It goes so deep. This goes so deep because everything we are experiencing is connected to certain story, certain belief system, because that's what makes sense, right? Like, we all live in a certain certain story, certain movie, like, you're not here just to not have an experience. The experience is the story you are experiencing. I don't know how else to say it, but that's technically what's happening. So this Sun making a trine to Chiron on Thursday night, Friday morning, and Chiron is retrograde still until, I believe it's December 27th. It's going to be happening about the same time, December 26, 27, because I know it's happening at the same time as the full moon in Cancer. So Chiron going retrograde is again making us to feel these things very intensively, that are saying that, well, change must be better than this, right? Because the main blockage of people trying something different is the fear of unknown. Is this insecurity that, oh, well, at least this is the devil I know. I know what to expect, and what if the alternative is worse? But now with Chiron going retrograde and all this wounding coming up, retrograde, all this wounding of the past, much of that is not even yours. Much of that is coming from, like I said before, past lives, ancestors, and it's not just bad things. It's not like, oh yeah, these ancestors, they screwed us over, we inherited all these bad things from, like, no, like, there are all these gifts that you also, like the families, all the families we were born into, there are positives and negatives in everyone because it's polarity, right? It's this three-dimensional reality we are experiencing. So let's take the gifts and transmute the other stuff, right? And that's why with this Sun making a positive aspect, Sun, is illuminating the story, making positive aspect to Chiron, which again, just because it's trine, it doesn't mean it feels good. So with all these things coming to the surface, becoming conscious to us, because Sun is where the consciousness shines, right? Like the torch. Sun is where, the torch is shining, like, hey, pay attention to this thing now. Making a trine to Chiron, which is still retrograde, it's saying that, well, do we want to keep repeating the same experience, the same story? Do you still want to live in the same story, have the same adventure, right? And then Chiron is saying, well, it's time, it's closing to the North Node, so the cycle is closing. So Chiron is preparing for the new phase conjunction with North Node, which will happen after they have the conjunction in February. And then it will be like, okay, well, now we need to start building something new, because New phase is Aries quality, and it's all Aries. It's the Chiron is in Aries, North Node is in Aries, which is this that we enter into something completely new, which is making us feel afraid because we don't know what it is, because we don't have previous experience. I have no idea how to have this experience. I've never done it before, right? Like first day at school, first day at work, but then then we learn and then we know. By the time you come to the end of the cycle, you know everything, right? Well, I mean, we never know everything, but you know what I mean. You have the experience. So yeah, so this is a positive aspect that is supporting us on going forward. But now, like I said, the other thing that's happening at the same time is this Mercury in Capricorn making a trine to Jupiter retrograde in Taurus, which, as I mentioned, will take place 3 times, same as Mercury square to Neptune and Mercury sextile to Saturn. So again, what do we have playing in here? Like, let's just look at the archetypes. What's showing up for us? Jupiter is showing up everywhere, and Mercury, because the two are in opposition. Gemini is in opposition with Sagittarius because Gemini is the function of accumulating information. How do you identify your reality? When you enter a room and you notice, oh, okay, there is a hanger, there is this, there is a sofa, there is whatever. That's Gemini function. You identify, okay, this is what I can see. This is what I'm perceiving. But now, what story you make out of it, like, oh, this place is messy, is dirty, or it's I like it, I don't like it, whatever. That obviously then goes through, Leo to Sagittarius and all that, and then you create a story based on that, like, oh, okay, like I like these people because I like their selection of colors, I like the vibe of this place. Then you're creating a story about it. But it all started with Mercury. Like, you come somewhere, open a door, you come to visit your friend, and you, oh, I like this, I don't like this, whatever. So yeah, because Gemini sextile Leo and Leo trine Sagittarius. This is how we get to it. So anyway, so what archetypes we can see at play here? Like I said, it's Mercury, how we identify reality. Now Mercury is in Capricorn. It's like, okay, well, let's really look at this. This matrix we are experiencing, this reality that is your reality. Like, let's really look at it. Okay, Mercury. And then it's trining this Jupiter still retrograde, right, until 29th, 30th, 30th, 31st, depending where you are, in the world. It's the last day of December is gonna station direct, but like I said, for some of us it will be 30th, for some of us 31st. So Jupiter is still making us reevaluate with this being in Taurus, like, does this matter to me? Is this actually a reflection of my needs and values? What about my relationship to myself? Do I feel I deserve what I want, right? So Mercury now being in Capricorn, then going back into Sagittarius, reevaluating the story that got us to the point of manifesting this, which you experience in. This Jupiter still being retrograde in Taurus is saying, okay, well, this is supporting me in finding out what is the core of this story that created my relationship to me and the way that I value things, or my attachment to things. Taurus, which Uranus in Taurus, still retrograde, right, might be becoming redundant, right? So, like I said, this trine is going to take place 3 times. So now is the first one. Jupiter retrograde, Mercury direct. Then it's going to be both of them retrograde, because second time it happens, Mercury will be retrograde. And then the last time they will have a trine, it will be both of them direct, I believe. So yeah, it's going to be in January. So anyway, so let's pay attention to this, because Mercury and Jupiter, they come in pair, because Gemini and Sagittarius are in opposition, they come in pair. Based on what you identify, and then you go through all the other archetypes in between the two, you create a story, you create a perception of reality, which then influences what reality you are experiencing, because based on what you think and what you believe, and then you project it into the outer, that will be your experience. Like I said, 2 people can have exactly the same experience, like going to the, theme park, and one person is scared of heights and has a trauma, whatever, maybe in past life they were thrown off the stairs, and then they hate heights, whatever it is, and then hate it. It will re-traumatize them, and the other person doesn't have the same trauma. They don't have the same story going on in their, DNA, in their soul memory. So for them, it's it's a great thing, but it's the same thing. It's the same experience. It's just we are experiencing it very differently because we use our own filter, which is based on these archetypes, how you identify it and what is the story attached to it, right? So yeah, this is important aspect to pay attention to, just like the other 3, which we already experienced. The first sextile between Mercury and Saturn, just as, yesterday actually, on Saturday, just as soon as Mercury moved. And then the square between Mercury and Neptune took place during the Gemini full moon, and it will take place 2 more times. Okay, and then the last very, very important aspect to talk about, I believe, yes, this one is important, is Venus in Scorpio making opposition to Jupiter retrograde. Okay, so Venus, as I mentioned, is going to dig very deep. She's the ruler of the South Node. She has a lot of work to do because South Node is the resolution node to Pluto square, you know. So this South Node is what we need to resolve. This is what needs to be resolved, you know. The Pluto is in Capricorn. Say, okay, this is tripping us up. We can no longer externalize our power. It's never gonna make you feel empowered. We're going into Age of Aquarius, Pluto in Aquarius. You need to individuate. You need to be able to know who you are, you know, without the conditioning. And now we need to resolve it. What do we need to resolve? We need to resolve how the external world is impacting your sense of self. And is everything that you were being programmed to believe, is it actually truth? Or is it just somebody else's projection? Is it a memory from something else? Like, it's literally stripping of layers. Is this Scorpio? Is a process of metamorphosis? Is a stripping of the layers. Venus currently, you know, as soon as she moves into Scorpio, so as of tomorrow forward, she will be ruled by Pluto. I mean, yeah, traditionally Mars too, and Mars is in Sagittarius until January. So Mars is in Sagittarius. What is the story, right? But Venus is going to be ruled by Pluto. So, you know, she's going to have a deep dive over there, like just like all these planets had during Scorpio season. I mean, this Scorpio season was not for a lighthearted, for sure. So anyway, Venus opposing Jupiter. So this is something that I want to mention a few things about because it's absolutely crazy, you know. I mean, you can't make these things up, seriously. So as we know, as I keep mentioning all the time, opposition is the point of full moon, is the illumination. Something is becoming illuminated. Venus, of course, is opposing Jupiter retrograde, so Jupiter is still accumulating information. He's still reevaluating the story, and Venus is the ruler of Jupiter because Jupiter is in Taurus until end of May, which is what I will mention as well. So this started with conjunction, as everything starts with the point of conception. Point of conception is when the two planets meet, is the new moon, right? So the conception of this energy, which we are going to be experiencing the halfway of the opposition on Saturday night, Sunday morning, you know, coming up to the end of the week, that started on March 1st, March 1st, 2023. So what is interesting about this date? Well, it comes to number 9 to start with, because 1 and 3 is 4, and then 5 is 9. And then we have 1 new beginning, 3 Jupiterian quality, 5 change. Altogether comes to number 9. Something is going to be ending. Well, it happened in Aries. Aries is a new beginning. So in order to go in new direction, something needs to end. Jupiter was still in Aries, and it was on 12 degrees 9 minutes, which comes to number 12, which is hangman, change of perspective, you know, Neptune. And then it comes to number 3, which is Jupiter. Again, Jupiter quality, you know, expansion, growth. Venus conjuncted Jupiter last time in the sign of Aries, which is saying that there is a new story that is being birthed, but in order to start this new story, there are still cycles that we need to end, right? Because it was the number 9. So another interesting thing is that this conjunction happened right between new moon in Pisces and a full moon in Virgo. The full moon in Virgo was on the 7th. New moon in Pisces was on the 20th. So the next conjunction between Venus and Jupiter will take place in May next year, 23rd of 5th, 24. And that comes to number 7, which is the Neptunian quality. Well, 2 and 3 is 5, change. 5, change. 2 and 4 is 6, balance. But 10 and 6 is 17, which is, 16, which comes to number 7, which is Neptune, which is, again, we are shifting perspective, we are ending cycles, we are learning something, right? Like 7 is the chariot energy, is the year we just end in chariot. But anyway, that is going to happen on 29 degrees and 23 minutes, which is again number 7. 11 and 5 again is the 16, which is 7. So it's exactly the same digits. And 2 and 9 is 11, is the master number frequency. 5 is again change. And like I said, so this conjunction that, you know, like that we have opposition this week, it's going to come to the, to the completion. The cycle will come to the completion at the end of May, and it will be literally just before Jupiter moves into Gemini. because Jupiter will move into Gemini on May 25th. This will happen on 23rd, which is on 29 degrees, 23 minutes of Taurus, literally last degrees of Taurus, culmination, ending cycles under the influence of Neptune energy, number 7, because we seek in a deeper meaning. And what else is happening on that day? Well, on the same day, we have Venus sextile in Neptune. I mean, seriously, but this is the first sextile after the conjunction, because they'll have a conjunction in April 3rd. And the more important thing to mention on this day is actually that it's the full moon in Sagittarius. So, I mean, you can't make this up, guys. Like, we are having an opposition between, between this Jupiter and Venus. Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius, is the story. This entire month, that's the illumination. What is the bloody story? What is this adventure you are experiencing at the moment? And is it the adventure you want to keep experiencing over and over again going forward? Because we keep holding on to this stuff, the stories of our, ancestors, culture, collective, religion, whatever. And it's not it's not all dysfunctional, it's not all bad, but we need to discern what is and what isn't, and how does it make you feel. Does it make you feel good to have to decorate your entire house and do it so early or whatever? Maybe yes, maybe no, I don't know. But why are we doing what we're doing? It's time to start questioning, why are we doing what we're doing? Why are we so attached to these things? Is it something we actually enjoy, or are we doing it because it's always been done that way? I'm like, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not very traditional kind of person, so for me, this is mostly all just theory, but I can observe from my own family, which is very traditional, that there are things that they keep doing every year, and I don't even know if they enjoy them. Like, they just do them because that's what's always been done. So anyway, this Venus conjunction with Jupiter that will take place on a full moon in Sagittarius will take place a few hours before, actually. Full moon in Sagittarius that will be happening on 23rd of May 2024. Full moon illumination. So we are having now point of illumination between Venus and Jupiter, and then new moon in Sagittarius, point of conception. What story are you choosing? And then in 6 months' time, 23rd of May, during the time of Venus conjunction to Jupiter, we'll have a full moon in Jupiter. In Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter. So it's going to be this illumination of whatever you see it in now. By the end of May, you will have an idea. And guess what? 2 days later, Jupiter will move into Gemini. So it's okay, well, there are all these multiple options available. So you see it in an intention, then you're going to see the outcome of that intention. New cycle will begin between Venus and Jupiter in a sign of Taurus. Like, do you trust yourself? You can create that which you are seeking, or, and then it's Gemini. Jupiter in Gemini, where it will remain until the year later. Jupiter in Gemini, it's going to give you an option. It's like now Mercury, Jupiter, all these aspects that are taking place, 3 trines, between Jupiter and Mercury. And then we're going to have Jupiter moving into the sign ruled by Mercury. It's all about choices. It's all about the choices we making for going forward. So now really, seriously, guys, and by the way, the full moon is gonna be happening 2 degrees 55 minutes, which is what? Which is number 3. 12, again, Pisces, Hangman, and it comes to number 3, which is Jupiter. All these numbers, 7 and 3, 7 and 3, 7, Neptune quality, 3, Jupiter quality of what are we letting go because it no longer holds a meaning, and it's potentially stopping us in exploration and expansion of what else is there to experience. This Chiron in Aries, North Node in Aries. What else? What other experience can we have? Because hand on heart, how many people are actually happy? How many people, yes, most people are having a life that they enjoy to a certain extent, but we are all stuck in, not all, okay, let's not generalize. Many people are stuck in this rat race of this is how it has to be done. We have to keep up with the Jonases. We have to keep the parents happy, the ancestors happy. And your ancestors would want you to be happy. They wouldn't want you to keep repeating the same mistake or going in the same whatever direction because, everybody was doctor in my family. I have to be a doctor, but actually I want to be a singer. Or whatever, I'm not saying that's the case, but we are now in this pivotal time of our human collective evolution, which obviously collective is made of individuals. So that's why this is very impactful for most individuals. And that is impacting the collective, and the collective is impacting the individuals. It's like vice versa. It's like mirroring effect, right? So we are in these pivotal times because all these things, all these behavior patterns, belief systems, stories, all these things, which, like I said, nothing new under the sun, we've all experienced that before, are coming to the surface. And it's intense because it's all happening at once. Everything is accelerated. It's like the speed is time, God knows how many. Like just like people continuously criticize me for the speed of how I talk, which I cannot influence, because when I channel, I don't influence how fast I talk because I don't think about what I'm saying. So anyway, just a side note. But yeah, when I'm thinking logically and reading my notes, I can speak slower. But anyway, what I was trying to say, now we are in a pivotal time of human collective transformation. We are in a decision time, because more and more going forward, people will be experiencing even more profoundly their own personal experience, which might be completely separate from somebody else's. And now we are in a times where we are deciding what that experience is going to be. Literally, it's like, choose your next adventure, choose your own adventure. What is it going to be? Like, you know, like, do you want to keep having the same experience? Are you happy with your life right now? And yeah, I know most people would say, you don't understand, I have no choice. Well, I don't know. Jupiter is going to move into Gemini. Gemini is all about choice. It's saying like, well, maybe we just need to look at it differently. We just need to apply a different lens through which we perceive this reality. Again, I don't know what that means in everybody's unique experience. You know, like, I only know my own experience because this is the bubble in which I am at. But now that's why all these things are coming up to the surface, because they are wanting us to see what brought us to this point, what was like based on being attached to these belief systems, stories, attachment to these values. This is the outcome, because the reality won't change unless we change. So if nothing will change, nothing will change. If nothing will change, that this is very likely the same experience you're going to have 1 year from now. Not all the details will be same, but like, I mean, just from my experience, I'm exactly in the same place. The same emotions coming up, even the same people are coming up to my, you know, like consciousness, the people that I haven't even spoken to for like many months, if not year. And why is that? Well, because universe has this funny way of showing you that, oh, well, you know, here's the exam again. How are you gonna do the test? Are you gonna? And it's no right and wrong. If you want to stay in the same class, it's okay. You know, maybe you want to hang out with the same people. Maybe they wanna stay in the same group. You know, they don't wanna change. They don't wanna move. It's okay. There is no judgment, and that's the thing. You know, like with this Neptunian quality, it's also about having compassion and forgiveness, because we are all where we are at, and there is no right and wrong. There's no like somebody is superior and somebody is inferior, because everybody has their own journey. They have their own experience. But if people are being attached to the experience of other people because they want to belong, South Node in Libra, I want to belong, I want to keep up with Jonases, I don't want to feel FOMO, like I'm missing out on something or whatever. So then I have to sacrifice who I am, my true authentic self, my true needs and values, or I don't even know what it is, because I've been conditioned all my life to do everything I've been told to do, right? And that then created a society full of unhappy people that are completely disconnected, detached, checked out, want to escape, and most of them are on antidepressants, right? So something is not quite right there, is there? You know, I don't know. But I feel now with all these aspects that are taking place, and I mean, it's all the same thing, right? It's just literally just looking at it from different angle. But I mean, the theme is the same. Nothing has changed, you know. It's just like all these different players are showing us literally from this unlimited like angles, I mean, unlimited position. There are all these different positions that we can take that are just helping us to understand the same thing, which is like, do you still want to be exactly where you're at right now 1 year from now? Are you happy? Does this hold a meaning for you? Is this still a representation of the version of yourself you're growing into? Because most people, hopefully, are not the same. Well, you know, they're not exactly the same people they were 1 year ago. They've changed their growth, right? Which means that if you've changed, there are things in your environment that change, or you want them to change because you are a different person. You are a different version of yourself. You worked on yourself, or you find certain aspect of yourself. You healed certain aspect of yourself, or maybe, I don't know, maybe, maybe you are struggling with something, whatever it is. But based on these changes that are happening around us and inside us, it's creating a ripple effect that is changing what we experiencing, what we perceiving. And now, in a sense, it's coming to the boiling point with Pluto ending its 15-year transit in Capricorn and only having one more retrograde into Capricorn for 2.5 months next year, between September and November. Now is the time to reevaluate everything, because you are choosing your future story, which of course you can always change, right? But I always say, why wait? If people were being diagnosed that you have 6 months to live, people would live life very differently. Majority of people would change everything. They would like just not take the shit anymore, literally, and go like, okay, well, I have 6 months to live, I better enjoy, right? But why wait? Why most people wait? Now when we can see that the world as you know it is starting to fall apart, and I mean, like, again, we all go, I mean, do you think I'm not going to be impacted? I'm still tapping into the system, obviously. But this is a time when we have an opportunity. We still have time, okay? We still have time. Pluto is still not in Aquarius and is not going to be there fully just yet until November next year. We still have time for us to reevaluate and choose. To choose. If you change nothing, nothing will change. So very likely you'll be in a very similar situation you are now next year, just enjoying the same thing, or not enjoying, depends where you're at. But with all these energies we have, with this strong number 7, and we just end in the year number 7 right now, we enter in the year number 8, which is all about abundance. It's a Saturn and Jupiter, right? Frequency. So it's about expansion. It will magnify and expand everything it touches, just like Jupiter in Taurus. Jupiter expands everything it touches. It's going to move into Gemini, so it's going to be all this information, all this potential, even more stuff with AI and whatever, especially once Pluto moves into Aquarius and then Uranus into Gemini in 25-26. Whoa, things are going to go crazy for sure. But in order for us to be able to have the best possible experience, you need to find your center. You need to find who you are. Yeah. So that's why we had a North Node in Taurus for a year and a half. And now Venus, as a rule of South Node now, as of July, she's cleaning up. She's cleaning up this mess. She's like just showing us, because Venus, one of the most personal planet, everybody knows Venus, because it's the thing that gives you pleasure and joy, is the relationships, is this relationship with everything. All this reality is relational, right? So that's why she's the last planet tugging about behind everyone else, redoing everything, retouching everything, highlighting everything from that perspective, because all these things are needing to be brought to the surface and processed and looked at, and the decision can be then made consciously. So it's no longer like, oh, I didn't even know this was happening in my reality. Like, it's all subconscious. I don't even know where this come from. I know nothing about my ancestors. I know nothing about my childhood, whatever. And now all these things are becoming brought to our consciousness, especially with the sun in Sagittarius and now upcoming new moon in Sagittarius, when we can put intention. You can put an intention and say like, okay, this is not the story I want to be experiencing for the next 20 years while Pluto is in Aquarius. Or do you? I mean, it's up to you. It's up to me, it's up to you, it's up to everyone. And then our individual experience will create a collective experience. So if you want to change the world, you need to start from you, right? Because if we don't like what's going on in the world, most of the time we don't like what's going on in our life either. Like, oh yeah, this relationship sucks, this money situation sucks, everything sucks, right? So then something has to change, and where the change can begin is from our own little backyard, because that's the one that you can influence. You can't go and change your neighbor's backyard, right? Like, they will go chase after you. I mean, unless there is a agreement and consent, right? So anyway, so I don't know if this been helpful, but like I said, all these aspects, literally all of them that are taking place this week, with Venus moving into Scorpio energy, and then all these, Gemini and Mercury and Sagittarius qualities, and all these, like literally everything else is to do with Mercury and Jupiter. Gemini and Sagittarius, and Jupiter is moving into Sagittarius. Jupiter is moving into Gemini, not Sagittarius. We just about to have a new moon in Sagittarius, and then we'll have a full moon in Sagittarius, after which Jupiter will move into Gemini. Okay, let's just get my wording right. So yeah, so what story are we choosing based on the stories that we are uncovering? Because that's all it is. We just came here to have an experience as a divine being in a human form. We came here to have an experience. The experience to which you are experiencing is filled with details which you have always an opportunity to change. And now one of those is coming up in this new moon in Sagittarius, putting up an intention and seeding an intention for the next year's story. And yeah, by the end of May, you will know where you at with that, right? So anyway, guys, I will leave it at that. There is a lot happening, and like I said, this is all build up towards the new moon in Sagittarius, which is happening the following week on the 12th and the 13th, depending where you are in the world. And yeah, and this is we are now in a good Sagittarian mutable fashion. The in between 2023 is over. It's already finished. 2024 hasn't quite started yet, because we have a new moon coming up, and it's saying, well, you decide what that's gonna be like for you, because it's the number 8 year. It will expand everything it touches. It's the opportunity for abundance and prosperity. But do you believe you can have it? With the Jupiter going retrograde in Taurus, do you believe you deserve it? And if not, why not? What is the story? What were you being told by your environment growing up? And is that truth? Is that the story you want to keep reliving, and you wanted to keep creating the experience that you've been having, if it's not the experience you actually want and enjoy? So it's time for questioning. Now is the time for questioning and making a different choice under the same old circumstances, as I keep saying. But it doesn't mean it's easy, because change never comes easy. That's why there are squares. That means that, there has to be a pressure that creates the diamond. So the changes never come easy. But then on the other side of it is always trine, right? On the other side of the square, or the completion. Trine, opposition, trine, sextile. It's all happening, all the aspects. So anyway, I'm gonna leave it at that, guys. Once again, I wish everybody a beautiful week. I hope that you are enjoying the pre-holiday energy. And I'll speak to you again next week. Okay, much love, everyone. Bye for now.